There's this Latin phrase, sine non qua non, meaning that for which there is nothing without. A legal term used to define the most critical element of something, the principal component, without which all the others don't matter. So much goes into becoming an adventurer. Knowledge and skills covering a dozen subjects at least. Navigation, survival, motorcycle maintenance, and on it goes. Then you have to get all those necessary items. The bike, the tools, the gear. I guess all these things don't have much value if you don't have the ability to ride as an adventurer. Unfortunately, the reality of adventure riding is hard to grasp without first-hand knowledge. With such wide variety of bikes, terrain types, and riding conditions, experiences tend to vary. Adventure content infrequently focuses on the technical aspects of adventure riding, preferring a more cinematic or narrative view. The perspective of a novice is rarely shown well, as content creators tend to be seasoned adventurers, and commercial content regularly minimizes the relevance of rider ability or the difficulty of developing such skills. And it's easier to sell something if it seems easier to get into. But I will say this. There is nothing so beneficial as training when it comes to the quality of an adventure. You'll find yourself more comfortable, less likely to crash or injure yourself, less exhausted from long rides, and less anxious, ultimately less at risk of getting yourself stuck or in a bad situation. With more skill, riding will be less demanding of your attention, so you'll be able to better take in your surroundings and enjoy the adventure. By nature, adventure training is exercise, demanding primarily muscular endurance, as you're forced to balance and repeat low-intensity actions for hours, so expect to be a little sore. If you're going to exercise, it's best to do something that improves your life in a more direct and obvious way than simply being healthier. So for me, being able to ride further, go more places, and be safer is that reward. Of course, training does have its cost. When approached correctly, it should be somewhere between 60 and 80% of your skill level, and feel like something between walking and a light jog. It's hard to say how much training a person should do, for obvious reasons, but as a rule of thumb, spend at least 2 to 3 times as many hours you plan on riding for any given trip, training for it, on roads and trails with similar challenges of equal to or greater difficulty. Even if you can't find a similar place to train, skills found elsewhere are still valuable, and on some level translate. Balancing in mud and sand will help you ride through rocks. Hopping curbs is a good substitute for logs and other obstacles. Keep your eyes open. Just because there aren't trails nearby doesn't mean that there are no opportunities to train. Off-road skills aren't the only thing you should develop as an adventurer. Riding on pavement is arguably more dangerous. Improved roads are taken at higher speeds, with other vehicles posing a hazard. Contrary to what it might seem, crashes are far more likely on empty back roads than on main arterial highways. This is mostly because people aren't as cautious of other vehicles being present. But there are further hazards. Back roads are typically less developed with fewer signs marking and less standardized conditions. Drivers tend to be less predictable in their behavior. And as an adventurer traveling across the country, culture and local laws compound these problems. But the best protection for any hazard is always greater skill. Consider taking a riding course from an organization like AMA, or at least getting a good guide and studying thoroughly. When it comes to dirt riding, it's far easier to learn off-road skills on a lighter bike than a heavier one. Those of you with large adventure bikes might consider getting a small used trail bike to practice before moving up. As well, it's important to train at some point with a full set of luggage, as the weight and bulk change the feel and behavior of any bike. At a minimum, I'd say that every adventurer should be capable of balancing in soft terrain, cross logs, and climb steps. But more advanced skills are always beneficial. For a more thorough description, check out other channels, particularly those on enduro training. Though it might seem that adventure riding would be different, the skills more or less translate. They're just a bit less dramatic on an adventure bike. Dirt bikers seek out challenges that they might conquer them, where adventurers tend to discover obstacles they might overcome. This isn't to say that they try to avoid them. It's just not the point. You don't always get to choose the circumstance in which an obstacle might be met. As an adventurer, life meets you. Even if you know the road ahead and all its challenges, there remains some unpredictability. Weather can dramatically alter riding conditions. Rain makes mud, wind can blow you off the road, snow tends to stick around, and so on. Dirt riders think about what they can do in the best of circumstances, when they know everything, where adventurers are more concerned with what they can do at the worst, when they're battered and broken, exhausted in the middle of nowhere. People often forget to consider the impact of physical status, be it tired, cold, or exhausted. It's worth practicing in bad conditions, uncomfortable ones, just to know what it's like when things aren't perfect. Perhaps the best skill you can get from training is an awareness of your own abilities and a real perspective on the challenges you might come across. Adventuring is constantly looking forward and asking the question, what am I, when faced with this? And with all I have, what can I do with it?